Wicks. Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready to get your fix? With the Wicks here on this beautiful Thursday, May 26, 2022, and welcome to the show, whether that's on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, do me a favor, hit that like and hit that share. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. It would be very much so appreciated. So a quick couple things before we get started for, talking about the information around the NFL. Quick shout out to my old high school baseball coach as he became the fourth winningest head coach in high school baseball history with 537 wins. So congratulations to Jeff Reese. He coached the New Richland baseball team for years. I'm talking years. Like, you don't see that very often. Then he goes and coaches his nephew over in Mankato Loyola School and stuff like that. He's still doing it. He's still kicking. Hopefully he has more left in the tank, and hopefully he can try to get to that number one spot. Really unsure of how many wins the number one guy has. Can't be too much more than 57. I mean, jeez. Rely on the coaches to put your team in the best possible position to win ball games, and Jeff Reese has done that for I think like 30 plus years at this point, and he's still kicking. Hopefully he continues to do what he loves the most, and that's baseball, because the game of baseball has been pretty good to him. So congrats once again to Jeff Reese on 537 wins, becoming the fourth winningest head coach in high school baseball history. Also, a little bit of exciting news. I will be joining, I believe his name is Mark. Let me go quick, take a gander. I don't want to botch this. I should have already looked it up before the show. But I will be joining Mark Davison for a quick interview, 20 to 30 minute interview, basically talking about my Vikings path and how I became a Vikings fan, why I'm a Vikings fan, all those types of fun stuff. Just basically, in his words, just talking some ball, mate. I'm pumped for it. Cannot wait for it. The dude is from Australia. It seems like he's ready to, he's on the right path. He has over, 400 some subscriptions on YouTube. That is awesome, especially for me to get my content out there as well. I will be joining him, I believe, June 7th around 7 p.m. on his Steelers Ironcast. Yes, folks, he's from Australia, and yes, he is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, especially, I think for the last, I don't even know how many years. I mean, it's been quite a few years that he, if I remember reading it correctly, that he's been a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been there 3 times or whatever his bio on YouTube said. But if you guys aren't doing anything, we'll find out where that is going to be, or where you guys can go find that and kind of listen in and see my story and why I'm a fucking Minnesota Vikings fan and how that became to be. It's going to be a fun time, 20 to 30 minutes, like I mentioned, with Mark Davison on his Steelers Ironcast. Going to be a great time, June 7th at around 7 p.m. Central Time here. So going to be pumped for that. Cannot wait. It's a good promotional tool. It's a good time to network with other people, so I'm pumped for that. I will be promoting that as we kind of move forward here in the next couple of days and weeks. With that being said, we got to get to the NFL. Okay, a lot of news has been popping off this week. Today, the NFL is kind of back to being dead, all right? But there's still some important things that we need to talk about, like the Atlanta Falcons signing former Titans running back Jermey McNichols. For those of you that don't know who he is, we'll talk about that in just a few moments. We also have to talk about some quick roster management notes As we all know, the league had a meeting, there was league meetings held in Atlanta, Georgia just the other day talking about rule changes and talking about roster management and the Pro Bowl and the scouting combine and all sorts of stuff that the owners get together with the commissioner and the probably the cabinet or whatever they have going on there and kind of discuss things about the upcoming season and what to change and what not to change and stuff like that. So there'll be some quick roster management notes for you guys to know going forward throughout this next season. And finally, Colin Kaepernick got his workout with the Las Vegas Raiders. How'd that go? Well, guess we'll find out in just a few moments. With that being said, are you ready to get your fix? So today, the Atlanta Falcons made the executive decision in signing running back Jermey McNichols to serve as, I believe, Cordero Patterson's backup. This is a good pickup, in my opinion. We got to see Jeremy actually play with the Tennessee Titans briefly last year. Didn't get a lot of playing time, but got enough for where teams were able to get a good kind of look at him and see how he would perform on the field during the ball games. And kind of scout him, basically. And the Atlanta Falcons thought it would be a good idea to bring him in. Jermey McNichols, it's kind of a hard fucking name to say. Come on, pal. I mean, geez. We'll just say Jeremy, okay? Jeremy has been in the league since 2017. His first couple of years, I believe his first 3 years, really wasn't doing much, okay? Wasn't making much noise. And then he finds his way into the roster, into a playing type of role. Because of injuries that had taken place. Last year, especially with Derrick Henry getting injured, they needed some people to step up in a massive way, and he did so. In 2020, Jermey McNichols actually had 47 carries, 204 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 12 catches for 55 yards. But last year is where he really started to climb that mountain and really make a name for himself in not only the running game, but a massive, increase in performance, production in the receiving game. Jermey McNichols, 41 carries, 156 yards. Pretty solid on the ground. But through the air, 28 catches, 240 yards receiving, and a touchdown. Jermey McNichols has become a receiving back. We've talked about it multiple times on the show where you need a good 1-2 punch at your running back position. You need a guy who's, a bulldozer, okay? Or not really a bulldozer, either a bulldozer, elusive guy, a guy that can run the ball very, very well. Then you also need a guy who's coming right behind him that can get those third down completions, whether that's running the ball up the middle. Or, in other words, being a receiving back. Right? Christian McCaffrey did it a couple years ago where he was a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000 receiving yard running back. He did it all by himself. Okay, now he's kind of injury prone and all that stuff. But teams with these two people, or with these two type of people, somebody who's exceptionally well at running the ball and a person who's exceptionally well at receiving the ball or catching the ball, it helps them become more successful and win more ball games. And that's what Jermey McNichols is going to bring to the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to have a rough season. We understand that. They really don't have a quarterback other than Marcus Mariota. Hopefully he has a lot left in the tank because he was a former number 2 overall pick, I believe, to the Titans. And we got to see him briefly, I think, for just a little bit with the Raiders last season. So Atlanta's going to struggle whether we like it or not, but I think this is going to be a pretty solid pickup for the Atlanta Falcons. Moving forward, there's been some roster management changes, or not really changes, kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's for the roster management for every single team around the National Football League. A quick, brief little look over what that really all entails. I read through the articles and stuff like that. Really didn't make too much sense, so I had to have it dumbed down a little bit, and thank God for Ari Mirov of Pro Football Focus. On Twitter, his handle is @MySportsUpdate. Dude's an absolute legend of the game. He's continuously growing his business. I believe he was selling real estate before he got into the media game, and he's doing an absolute fantastic job. So Ari Mirov at My Sports Update on Twitter says roster management notes for next season via NFL Network. So first, players placed on injured reserve or IR now miss a minimum of 4 games, not 3. So in previous years, if you were in the IR, you could only miss, or the minimum amount of games you would miss would be 3. Now they're bumping that up 1 game. Not sure why, but I'm sure they have their reasons behind it, trying to make the game less violent, keep players more healthy, try to get these injuries kind of under control a little bit so nothing happens later on in life. So 4 games is now the minimum if you are put on IR, not 3. So if you pull a hammy and you got to get put on IR, you're missing the next 4 games, whether you like it or not, whether you think you can come back after 2 games or not. So 4 games is the minimum. Next, we have up to 8 players can be designated to return from injured reserve. So if you have 9 players that end up going on the injured reserve, only 8 of those players are allowed to come back. Not really sure if it's like if the same player goes on there. Actually, here we go, right here, next one, okay? Players can come back from injured reserve twice in 1 year. So if you go on it 3 times, sorry, pal, you ain't coming back. That's just how it goes. And plus, if you go on there twice, you're missing 8 fucking games. That is too much. All right, that's damn near half the season. Sorry about it. So if you go on there, 3 times, you're missing basically all of the season. So, I mean, you're not going to be playing in 5 games or whatever, 6 weeks, whatever the case may be. So you can return twice a year from injured reserve, but a minimum of 4 games. Remember that. And only 8 players on the practice squad. I believe this is still the same as last year, and they boosted the practice squad player, how do I want to say it, like the amount of players that are able to be on a practice squad. They boosted that because of, old Uncle COVID who came fucking a-knocking and really took a lot of people out. It was hard to get, how do you want to say it, like exceptionally good players in the National Football League to play, or you get it. So teams can have up to 16 players on their practice squad. I like it. That gives more people an opportunity, especially if injuries happen. It helps teams out that much more because they're at practice. They know what to do on any given notice. They should know the playbook. They should have somewhat of a chemistry built with their starting team or with any team 1, team 2, or team 3 on that organization. So up to 16 players on the practice squad. Also, some roster cuts during the preseason will stay the same as last year. For those of you that don't know what it was last year, we'll dive right into it right now. The roster cuts during the preseason will be gradual instead of 90 to 53 in one shot. So it used to be you have 90 players on your roster. You got fucking 2 days or whatever the case may be, just a couple days to bump it down to 53. Okay, 37 players cut in a blink of an eye. People are panicking. Players are panicking. Is it me? You hear a knock on your door. You start freaking out and you realize, oh shit, I ordered pizza an hour ago. All right, God, bring it in. All right. But they decided to make it more gradual. So you can kind of get these guys bumped up. You have a longer period of time to look at these guys and make a final decision whether or not you want them on your organization, whether that's on your 53-man roster or on your practice squad roster. So, August 17th, which is after the first preseason game, rosters will go from 90 players to 85 players. August 23rd, okay, just 6 days after that date, which is after the second preseason game, rosters go from 85 players to 80 players. I don't know how much of a difference it is from, 10 different fucking players, but August 30th, okay, my birthday, 25 years old, gonna be. Uncle fucking the time god, whatever you want to call him, fucking He's coming for me, okay? He's coming for me. But August 30th, which is after the third preseason game, rosters will go from 80 players to the official 53 players. Kind of seems like the same fucking thing from 90 to 53, but what do I know, right? I mean, it's just 10 less players. You already got them out of the building. You got 10 players out of there and 2 dates before that. I mean, it makes sense because you know that the for sure, or the 10 players that you're like, okay, not going to be on my team this year. So you kind of got to get rid of them gradually. You don't want to be too harsh on them because people nowadays are soft as shit and it's brutal out there. But just know August 30th, rosters will finally be set. 53 men on every single team. That does not include practice squad because I believe it's 53 plus your practice squad. So it's 16. So you got 69 total players in your organization. So that is those dates for the roster cuts during the preseason. The roster management notes, we already know minimum of 4 games missed if you go on IR. Only 8 players that go on IR are permitted to come back. A player can come back from IR only twice during the season. And what was the last little bit right there? Teams can have up to 16 players on their practice squad, which I believe is the same as what it has been, at least last year for sure, maybe 2 years as well. So moving forward, finally, right? Colin Kaepernick got his workout with the Las Vegas Raiders. We're all kind of wondering, how'd that workout go? Especially myself, because I said, hey, this gives him the opportunity to either A, embarrass himself or prove to not only teams around the National Football League, but fans of the National Football League, fans of the Raiders organization, fans of Colin Kaepernick, that he still has what it takes to play at a high level in the National Football League. Colin Kaepernick, after years of trying to get back into the National Football League, trying to get workouts with the team, finally got one. And it did a pretty good job. From the looks of it, from the sounds of it, I should say, Colin Kaepernick's workout went well and he impressed. So what does that mean, right? Well, when on Yahoo Sports, a reporter on there, or a guy who wrote this article, kind of read through the first little bit of it for you guys to kind of really get the full extent of how this actually went and what it kind of looks like. So, sources, Colin Kaepernick workout went well, but Raiders are mum on the specifics. So they're really not saying anything specific about it, but this will kind of dive into it a little further. This is from Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports. It says, Colin Kaepernick spent nearly 5 hours with the Las Vegas Raiders on Wednesday, working through drills and meeting with coaches and executives. When it was all over, 2 sources, okay, not one, 2, okay? It's more credible that way. 2 sources characterized the visit as having been a fruitful workout and an open line of communication as the Raiders continue to evaluate their quarterbacks heading into next season. One source said, it was a very normal workout. It was just about assessing a football player, meeting face-to-face, seeing the physical capabilities like any other football workout. So many people probably thought, oh, he's going in there for a workout. It's probably going to talk about, all his off-field stuff, his off-field issues, even though he doesn't have any, but with a kneeling situation and stuff like that, they thought that the Raiders are probably going to bring that up instead of actually going through workouts and try to make it all about Colin and stuff. But no, they actually went through a legit football workout. Okay, they talked to executives, coaches, just like a draft prospect or a draftee would, during the scouting combine, would sit down with the coaches and the owners and they would ask him questions and he would have to answer in the right way and stuff like that to see if he's a legitimate fit for that organization. It goes on to say, the sources said Kaepernick was in great physical shape and threw the ball with considerable arm strength comparable to the balance of his 6-year NFL career to this point. Remember, back when Colin Kaepernick actually played, I believe it was said, or I believe it was actually caught on a radar that he threw a ball 60 plus miles an hour, every time, or close to every time. So he had an absolute cannon and an absolute fucking laser. He was putting the balls in places that A lot of people really can't. He actually led the fucking Niners to a Super Bowl run, okay? Didn't win it. It is what it is. Sorry about it. But his arm strength is still kind of there, okay? Great physical shape. He also had good meetings during his visit. So he had good meetings with the coaches, the executives, and all the above. But it's also clear that this was an initial evaluation and nothing more is imminent as the team continues to assess and fine-tune the depth chart. As it stands, okay, the Raiders are set at starting quarterback with Derek Carr. Okay, we already knew that. Who signed a 3-year, $121.5 million extension this offseason. The team also acquired Jarrett Stidham from the New England Patriots, which is giving head coach Josh McDaniels, a player in the meeting room who is familiar with all the details of Josh McDaniels' offense. But also, the Raiders signed veteran backup Nick Mullins to a 1-year deal, including almost $700,000 in bonuses that will have been paid by training camp. Those moves would weigh on the consideration of a Kaepernick signing, which is why the likeliest path forward for the Las Vegas Raiders to continue to assess its current quarterbacks through the mandatory minicamp that kicks off on June 7th. That doesn't mean the Raiders can't or won't bring Kaepernick on board, just that the backup quarterback spot is not in dire straits or in need of added bodies at this stage of the offseason. So, hey, from what it sounds like, he had a good workout. He showed up in great physical condition. That's a plus. That's a major, major plus. Because if you come in, you're fat, you're a slob, you're huffing and puffing after throwing 2 passes, red flag, okay? Probably not going to get you in the building anymore. And if you have bad meetings, and he didn't, he had great meetings, or good meetings as it was said, that's an even better plus. If you go in there, don't know your stuff, really don't know anything about the organization, the team, and what you would bring to the team as a player, then it's a red flag. They probably wouldn't want to bring you in. So it's a good news. It's a good sign for Colin Kaepernick. Now, does he get signed? Really unsure. Like, really, really unsure. Because they have 3 quarterbacks. You do see teams kind of sign 4 quarterbacks for their team, but it's a rarity. I think if they do that, it's kind of like they're really unsure of one of the 4 quarterbacks that probably won't make the team. It's like, all right, well, let's give us a third option because we have to have 2 quarterbacks. We have to have a starting quarterback, a backup quarterback, and potentially a practice squad quarterback just in case injuries take place and all that type of fun stuff. Because I believe Vikings last year, Kirk Cousins, Sean Mannion, Kellen Mond. Okay, 3 quarterbacks that you need. So if they bring in Colin, it's because they're really unsure what Nick Mullins would bring to the table, or really unsure how Jarrett Stidham would perform if he had to go in the game and stuff like that, or even at practice, training camp, you get it. But this is a huge step because apparently this article kind of goes on to say that right here, it says, sources close to Kaepernick said that there were some indications of potential interest from other teams over the last 2 months, but that plans for workouts or meetings hadn't materialized. So teams showed interest, probably one of them being the Seahawks. Pete Carroll said, oh, we should give him a chance. I think he deserves a chance, right? I don't know if it's going to be us, but he deserves it. But he possibly had interest from a couple other teams to kind of bring him in on a workout basis, see what he has left in the tank, if he's in great shape, knows, his stuff, basically, has good arm strength and all that good stuff. Not that he hasn't fallen off that over the last 6 years of not being in the National Football League. So Colin Kaepernick had a good workout, which is a plus. Good meetings, which is an even better plus. And he had interest from other teams. That's another plus. So Colin Kaepernick very well could be on his way to the National Football League. I don't think he's going to get signed necessarily quickly, but if he does, I'd expect him to take kind of that backseat role, if you will, could have worded that a little better, but he's going to go in there. Obviously he doesn't expect to be a starter. That's not going to happen, especially if it's with the Raiders. That's Derek Carr's job. He's going to have to battle Jarrett Stidham and Nick Mullins to kind of maybe work his way up to a second-string quarterback or get that third-string opportunity or whatever the case may be if he gets signed by the Raiders. Now, other teams, if they only have two quarterbacks, he can walk in there and battle for that backup position. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, he's not going to go in there expecting to be a day one starter or fight for that job. He could definitely go in there and wow the coaches or woo the coaches and be like, wait, Colin needs to be our starter. Okay, we need to put him. He needs to be our guy. But I just don't see that happening. I think if he makes an appearance in the National Football League, gets signed by a team, it's going to be more of as a backup role or a practice squad player, and that's huge for him and his camp and all that stuff and his fans and the organization and stuff like that. So good for Colin Kaepernick. Had a great workout, and I'm pumped for it. I can't wait to see if he gets signed or not, because I don't want to hear no more workout or see no more workout videos of him trying to get back in the National Football League every single year before the draft. So good for Colin Kaepernick, good for the Raiders, good for the NFL. With that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Not much really popping off in the world of the National Football League, but that's okay. It's that time of year. Quick, once again, shout out to Jeff Reese, fourth winningest head coach in high school baseball history, 537 wins. Just ridiculous. Absolutely legendary for him to do so. And also, once again, June 7th. It might get bumped up earlier. Not really sure yet. He has another interview a week before that. So if that person ends up bailing, we might do it then. So I'll keep you guys updated. But June 7th, I will be on the Steelers Ironcast with Mark Davison from Australia, who's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, to kind of talk about my Vikings story, right? And just talk ball. And I'm pumped for it. Can't wait for that. I'll continue to promote that and show you guys and tell you guys where to go if you want to listen to that. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the weather out there. Be safe out there. Watch behind your shoulders, okay? Look behind your back. Make sure nothing's happening. Just be safe, all right? That's plain and simple. Simple enough for you guys to understand. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time, like always. And you folks just got your fix with the Wicks. Deuces.